Can I do this? Like that? Yeah, that sounds like Nightwish. Honestly. So where did we leave it yesterday? This one, I think. Palestinian American legal scholar Noura Erakat discussed the Trump plan in detail during an interview with MSNBC, warning that it risks legitimizing Israel's ongoing war and deepening Palestinian suffering. I think we did watch this, but let's just check it again.
Let's start with the kind of contours of this peace plan, this 21-point peace plan. How do you evaluate it? How do you see it? Is it problematic? Is it realistic?
So I want to acknowledge that it's a very welcome move that we see anything that can actually, cease the bombardment of starving Palestinians, to actually create an influx of much needed humanitarian aid, basic needs, to end a genocide. So that part is quite hopeful. The problem is that in the 20 points, the details of them, if you're actually looking at it closely, what it sets up is a different kind of occupation, a permanent occupation and a tighter siege, one that's even worse than the one that was in place before October 7, 2023. The terms and the stipulations are very vague. There are no timetables for when Israel is to withdraw. There are no borders to where they will withdraw. It basically sets us up in a situation where it's going to be governed by Israel and its allies of how they will stay, where they will place Palestinians, how they will concentrate them, and it's sold to the world as peace. But really what they've done is they've contained Palestinians, and Palestinian self-determination on their own land remains off the table. That part is not talked about, and I think it should be the most obvious thing, that you have Trump and Netanyahu having a oppressor, no Palestinians there, this involves them, no Palestinians involved in developing the text. And so this is, again, another way of continuing the occupation and the deprivation of freedom for Palestinian people.
She's absolutely right. And guess who's going to rebuild Gaza, boys? We got a few videos from the Russian-Indian exercise Indra 2025, which began October 15. Oh, it's going to end October 15th. Okay. I don't know when they begin. India with Russia. We should see Chinese and Indian exercises. Hey, Sashi. No, sadly. I will need to go against Maduro for winning them.
От имени российской делегации позвольте выразить искреннюю благодарность за теплый прием и возможность вновь встретиться на земле дружественной страны в рамках проведения совместных военных учений. Друзья, я искренне желаю всем участникам учений успехов, крепкого здоровья. Пусть эти дни совместной работы станут еще одной яркой страницей в истории нашего партнерства.
Very cool though, right? This is Trump when asked about the Supreme Court rejecting Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. Okay?
Its term today, Mr. President.
Say it.
The Supreme Court is back and said that they rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance of getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're...
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Who is Ghislaine? Who's that? Still talking about that?
I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say this, that I'd have to take...
So dumb, right? You can clearly see he's like acting, but it's so fucking obvious.
Take a look at it. I would have to take a look. Did they reject that?
She wanted to appeal her conviction.
And what happened?
They said that they were not going to hear her appeal.
I see. Well, I'll take a look at it. I will speak to the DOJ. I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it. So, but I will speak to the DOJ.
Why would she be a candidate from the state, sir?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it.
He even seems kind of annoyed.
I call him Puff Daddy. Has asked me for a pardon.
But she was convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to take a look at it. I have to ask DOJ. I didn't know they rejected it. I didn't know she was even asking for it, frankly.
Right. Trump released his first TikTok telling Gen Z they owe him for saving the app from being banned. If that's what he did.
To all of those young people of TikTok, I saved TikTok, so you owe me big, and now you're looking at me in the Oval Office, and someday one of you are going to be sitting right at this desk, and you're going to be doing a great job also.
What he really did was banning the Palestinian voices on TikTok on behalf of Israel. Barry Weiss, a prominent Israel supporter, appointed CBS News editor-in-chief. Paramount, which is super Zionist, announced the appointment of conservative writer Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief of CBS News. Weiss is known for her strong pro-Israel positions and frequent criticism of woke policies. The appointment follows Paramount's acquisition of Weiss' platform, Free Press, which she founded in 2022, and comes with backing from prominent investors including Mark Andreessen, David Sachs, and former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. And regarding the acquisition of Free Press, that one is also very weird because it was nothing, it was tiny, but was bought for millions. Or billions or some shit like that, though. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to Jewish media host Ben Shapiro, once again inciting against Iran.
America first doesn't mean America alone, because all countries need allies. Superpowers need allies.
America first doesn't mean America alone. Right.
China has allies. Russia has allies. And if you're without allies who may develop the technologies that are needed for your defense, or the technologies that are needed for your offense, or the intelligence to save your lives, why forfeit yourself of these allies? The problem that you've had over the years, the United States, is that you didn't have these allies pulling their weight. And Israel is an ally. It's a fighting ally that pulls its weight. Not only that, not only do we fight, we don't ask for Americans to bring boots
I thought the American taxpayers' money paid for healthcare in Israel.
on the ground. We've done the job of defending ourselves pretty well, I'd say, over the last 7 years. But it's not only that. We've also defeated enemies who are your enemies who are trying to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles armed with nuclear warheads to attack your cities. That's what Iran was doing. We just knocked out Iran.
Yep. Iran was developing missiles again, dude. Which Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying for 30 years.
Also, as I said, with President Trump's very judicious and pointed assistance. It didn't start World War III. It didn't require, thousands of Americans to die or to go to Tehran. No, we had exactly the right alliance in which we shared the labor, and we achieved this neutralization of Iran, which could blackmail every American city. People probably don't believe it, right? They don't believe it. Oh, we're far away, right? No, you're not. Iran is developing.
They don't believe it because there's no evidence. And he's been saying it for 30 years. Okay. This video I'm not going to show, but I can tell you what it is. We got a young Palestinian woman survives a bullet into the head, shot by a Zionist quadcopter drone, which was shooting randomly at displaced civilians. And you can see her here, she's like blood here. You can't really see the wound or anything. It doesn't look like it penetrated the skull. But there's blood, so I'm not going to show the video. Direct flights between India and the Chinese mainland will resume later this month, marking the end of a 5-year suspension and a gradual step toward the normalization of ties. Thank you, Trump. I feel like we covered this with Candace Owens and the Charlie Kirk chat group, so we're going to skip that one. Exclusive. Classified Justice Department opinion authorizes strikes on secret list of cartels. Okay. CNN reports that the Trump administration has drafted a classified legal opinion authorizing lethal strikes against a secret list of cartels and suspected drug traffickers. According to sources familiar with the matter, the opinion prepared by the Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel argues that the president has the authority to use deadly force against a broad range of criminal organizations deemed to pose an imminent threat to Americans. The classified list reportedly extends beyond those cartels publicly labeled as terrorist groups, giving the administration a wide mandate to act militarily. Okay, why is it classified? Hey, Lainey. Because they're fighting against Nazism and are defending civilians. They're also the driver behind BRICS, the biggest defense for the Palestinians. We have Ursula von der Leyen here saying Russia is responsible for the no confidence votes.
The truth is that our adversaries are not only ready to exploit any divisions, they are actively inciting those divisions in the first place. And look at what happened in Sochi just last week, where Putin gave his annual Valdai Club speech. We should listen very carefully to his words. He put the blame on Europe for his continued war of aggression in Ukraine. He crowed about what he coined as the cracks of the edifice of Europe and the shaken unity within our union. He's not hiding his contempt for our union and the foundation it is built on, and he is not hiding his glee and support for all of his obedient friends in Europe who are doing his work for him. This is the oldest trick in the book. Sow division, spread disinformation, create a scapegoat.
Fear-mongering to cut social spending and more military spending is Putin's trick. New York Times reports that Trump has halted diplomatic efforts with Venezuela, signaling a shift towards potential military actions against alleged drug traffickers or the government of Maduro. According to the US officials, Trump ordered a special envoy, Richard Grenell, to end all negotiations with Maduro. Like there ever was any diplomatic solution. Israeli gasoline fuel distribution company hacked. Some local Hebrew sources reported that the Israeli fuel company Delek, fully named Israel's Fuel Company, which is mostly known as Delek, was hacked for several hours. There's not much information else other than that. Regarding UNIFIL, I think, from Lebanon, French forces present in southern Lebanon under the UNIFIL cover are cooperating in intelligence and operational activities with the Zionist regime to assassinate Hezbollah forces in these areas and are preparing for the upcoming war. The French forces are not only far beyond the needs of a peacekeeping force in terms of structure and missions, but also in qualitative capabilities, effectively forming intelligence and military strike units. Informed sources have reported that the French forces have deployed semi-heavy and even strategic weapons, such as advanced air defense systems with Mistral missiles in southern Lebanon. This is not the first time where you have either the UN, or UNIFIL, or Red Cross operating with Israel and the US. This is the new Czech president. If we reduce or completely stop the Czech initiative to supply ammunition to Ukraine, we will primarily harm ourselves. So he urges parties to keep up ammunition aid for Ukraine, which is exactly the opposite of what he ran on. He ran on not providing support for Ukraine. But this is from Reuters. It might not be true. Okay? Ukraine's secret weapons spending faces questions after internal review. Let me guess, corruption. This is from the New York Times. Reporting on how donations from Europeans intimidated by Russia are being skimmed off. One of the concerns of government auditors reviewing military spending is Kyiv repeatedly awarding contracts without explanation to companies that offered higher prices than their competitors. Internal government audits reviewed by the New York Times revealed dozens of such contracts signed over just more than a year, as well as cases of late or incomplete deliveries. Additionally, there were instances where Kyiv made advance payments, but the weapons never arrived. Almost like Ukraine is corrupt and doesn't really need the weapons. Chinese combat all-weather radar for drone detection in service with the Russian armed forces. The radar is used in conjunction with anti-aircraft FPV drones to guide them towards Ukrainian UAVs. Among the downed trophies are reconnaissance Lileka, Mini Shark, Vector, heavy strike drone Heavy Shot, Kamikaze, Chaklun, and Darts. Here is some of the trophies it looks like. Wow, that's expensive, dude. We have an MEP from the European Parliament, Thomas Freilich, talking about foreign interference.
Präsident, die EU beklagt ständig fremde Einmischung, dabei mischt sie sich selbst. Präsident, die EU beklagt ständig fremde Einmischung, dabei mischt sie sich selbst seit Monaten in die Angelegenheiten Georgiens ein. Sie unterstützt einen
Same in Moldova as in Georgia.
Staatsstreich in Tiflis, der an den blutigen Euromaidan in der Ukraine erinnert. Aufgestachelte Demonstranten, vom Ausland finanzierte NGOs, Massenprotest auf den Straßen. Das Ergebnis kennen wir. Es ist kein gutes. Die EU macht dies deshalb, weil sie nicht verlieren kann. Denn in Georgien haben sich politische Kräfte durchgesetzt, die die Brüsseler Agenda nicht teilen. Die Georgier wollen traditionelle christliche Werte statt Woke.
I think what the Georgians want is just not to be taken advantage of. That's it, right? They don't want to end up like cannon fodder like Ukraine.
Souveränität statt Westbindung, Frieden statt Krieg. Und sie wollen keine Fremdeinmischung, weder aus Moskau, noch aus Brüssel, noch aus Washington. Nachvollziehbar. Ein Michael Roth von der SPD hat auf den Straßen von Tiflis als Anpeitscher nichts verloren. Wir sollten deshalb auch im eigenen Interesse den Willen der Georgier respektieren. Keine arroganten Belehrungen, keine eskalierenden Interventionen, sondern gute diplomatische Beziehungen zu Tiflis. Denn Georgien darf nicht zu einer zweiten Ukraine werden.
Yep. Well put. From the US, emergency chopper goes down. A medical transport helicopter crashed onto a busy highway in Sacramento, California. 3 people suffered serious injuries in the crash. I haven't heard anything about the fate of these people though. Is it this one? Are you sure? Could have landed on someone. One person has died. I can never tell Arseny with crashes like that though. We have Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister. He arrived at the consultation on Afghanistan. And we have him arriving here, which is not that interesting, okay? But he made this video. He warns against military presence of non-regional actors in Afghanistan, and he's referring to America.
Региональных игроков способны привести к дестабилизации и новым конфликтам. История Афганистана знает немало ситуаций с иностранным военным присутствием. Я думаю, все уже давно должны были сделать правильные выводы. Констатируем, что за 4 года...
And he's right. The US wants to get back into Afghanistan. From France, they've launched an investigation into Apple over allegation of spying on users. To improve its Siri voice assistant, Apple stored users' voice requests. In 2019, these recordings were handed over to a subcontractor, Globe Technical Services, for analysis to refine Siri's responses. A former employee of the subcontractor revealed that he listened to these recordings and warned that they contained intimate moments and sensitive personal data that could be used to identify users. Meanwhile in Ukraine,
викрадають людину.
Намарана! Отакі намара, це третя штурмова.
Усі знають, усі. Нема у нас бусифікації. А що це происходить? Це не бусифікація, ні?
Are these civilians or what is? Oh, that's the Azov or the Ukrainian flag. The Ukrainian symbol. Volunteer, yeah.
Нет, скажите, пожалуйста, что происходит?
Another day in Ukraine. Why did the peaceful revolution in Ukraine in Georgia fail? Sorry, look at BBC Russia. Obviously, they weren't peaceful, right? And now the Western media is crying because the Maidan attempted coup failed. One iPhone led police to gang suspected of sending up to 40,000 stolen UK phones to China. The BBC article skillfully shifts the attention of the British public from questions like, when will the lawlessness end? The incoming armies are snatching phones on the streets, and the police do nothing. To the target, China. Too. Before October 7th and after. This was probably the main goal, really, as well, to level everything so they could build their IT city. From Hungary, Foreign Minister, we will not allow Brussels to unleash the Ukrainian mafia and a war against the European Union. According to him, the Ukrainian authorities are supporting the opposition party, Respect and Freedom, whose leader is Orban's main political opponent. If anyone had doubts about whether Ukrainians would interfere in the parliamentary elections in Hungary next year, you can be sure they are very interested. If a puppet government of Brussels is created in Hungary, all obstacles to Ukraine's accession to the EU will be removed. It is clear what Ukraine's interests are in the elections to the Hungarian parliament. And it is clear who and through whom wants to act in this interest. Brussels. If there's Ukrainian infiltrators in Hungary, they're acting on behalf of Brussels and the US, obviously. We got Polish MEP calling the policy of the head of the European Commission a symbol of arrogance and chaos.
W trakcie negocjacji ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi.
Okay. During negotiations with the United States, you ridicule yourself and the entire European Union. Donald Trump is laughing at you. You're pushing us into a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. But why should our husbands and our sons, our brothers, fight for your interest? The MEP said. This should be prosecuted. Poland is not a province of your leftist empire. Resign immediately. Hey, Usain, what's up? Did I see the resistance in Gaza dealing with the collaborators? Yeah, I did. I saw the video. We got Rosenik Torm saying a Ukrainian drone attacked the Novorossiysk nuclear power plant overnight on October 7th. The UAV was jammed by EV systems and hit a cooling tower, causing no damage or casualties. The plant remains fully operational. Moving on, dude. That's ridiculous. We have the Prime Minister of Finland, Stubb.
I think President Trump began from a position where he tried softly to persuade Russia to end this war. That was the carrot phase. And of course, with the latest language that he has put forward, I see a stick emerging. How big that stick is going to be is in the hands of the president himself.
He's just kissing up to Trump. So ridiculous. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico criticized the European Commission's plan to eliminate the use of fossil fuels by Russia by 2030. I asked the EC to take off the anti-Russian glasses. We are shooting ourselves in the foot. I'm ready to argue with the European Commission for days, constructively and positively, convincing that this is an absurd ideological step. Yes, it is. Then we got Latvian Foreign Minister, believes all European countries should make the lives of their citizens super expensive because they want peace in Ukraine.
We decided, and it was a strict decision, to get rid of purchases of Russia's oil and gas. So since beginning of 22, we are not buying any Russian gas or oil. And we also disconnected...
Which have completely deindustrialized Europe.
...from the electricity network that was connected to Russia. We did...
Remember, PPG, you supported this, dude. And Casey still believes Russia blew up the pipeline.
Import electricity from Russia, but it...
And remember what Malta said. Oh yeah, there was an intelligence report that there was a Russian vessel nearby.
Was still a connection, so that has been cut. And we do believe that other countries should do the same, because we all want peace in Ukraine. While Russia is getting that income in the state budget, it's able to continue fighting the war, because they finance war from the budget, federal budget. So very clearly, the biggest income in the budget is from oil gas revenues. If we as international community don't buy that gas and oil from Russia, there is less income in the budget and there is less ability to fight the war. And that relates to China, India, any other country.
China, India. Okay, we got more memorials being taken down in Ukraine. A memorial of the famous Soviet director Larisa Shepetiko was dismantled in Lvov. It was removed from the building of the school where she studied. Shepetiko was originally from Bakhmut, studied in Lvov, then moved to Moscow. I know, big bro. I know it's just lies, dude. It's in US think tanks that they need to target the Russian energy to raise up their own energy exports. Hey, Teo, what's up, man? I didn't see you earlier. This one made great films. Okay, that's not a list, actually. I don't know what this one is. You guys probably know. Laura Luma, PPGs. I just spoke with Congresswoman Real Anna Paulina, and she tells me that she's received evidence that China funded one of the groups under the FBI investigation for ties to Tyler Robinson's Discord activity, where he may have discussed his plans to assassinate Charlie Kirk. Can we see the evidence? And I'm not sure what they're funding. Are they funding the Discord activity? And what is that exactly? They're paying per message. Yeah, Rangers. That's because China, they launched tariffs on US ships in Chinese ports. LOL. In other words, America just collapsed. Rick Sanchez vindicated that Netanyahu is bragging about taking over media outlets after he was fired for suggesting Israel wanted to buy or own the media.
I want you to listen to something. This is Bibi Netanyahu basically calling the people you just heard, calling Tucker and Candace and Congresswoman Marjorie Stoneman Green Nazis. He's calling them Nazis for what they said.
China applied tariffs on US ships in their ports, which is gonna make America collapse.
He talked about the woke right, and he said, I call it the woke Reich. It's a brilliant observation. The woke Reich, because these people, you know...
Not terror ships, Rangers. Just normal trade ships, dude.
Any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane.
God damn it, Rangers.
But they're actually meeting on some of the things. We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them.
This is a meeting with Netanyahu and right-wing influencers in America.
If you have a chance, to that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class
Followers.
TikTok. TikTok.
Yeah, they took over TikTok.
Number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one? That's most important. X. X.
He's talking about owning the media. Owning the media. Do you know how many people, including me, have been fired for suggesting that Israel in the past has wanted to buy or own the media? He's admitting to it. Think about what you just heard there. I mean, that's the leader of a foreign nation attacking American citizens.
Nice going, Rangers.
American citizens, Nazis. Tucker Carlson, he says he's a Nazi, right? That's what he said. Bragging about taking over the media outlets to control how you think if you're American. I mean, he's saying this stuff out loud. And by the way, where's the criticism? Foreign leader criticizing Americans. Where's the criticism from CNN? Where's the criticism from Fox News? Where's the criticism from the big bad New York Times? Could you imagine?
He was fired in 2010, dude. ChatGPT doesn't like this, dude. I can engage with or promote anti-Semitic claims. Afghanistan takes a hard line against US returns to Bagram Air Base. At talks with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, Afghanistan's leadership delivered a firm message: no US return to Bagram Air Base. Earlier, Trump threatened Afghanistan with bad consequences if it refuses to hand over Bagram to US control, demanding an immediate transfer to the airbase. Afghan officials responded strongly, with Interior Ministry spokesman Abdul Matin Khani calling Trump's statement full of hatred and ambition. Hey, nice day, what's up? How are you doing? Seagaft, are you here? That was 20 minutes ago. Good night, we hate. Thank you for being here. Sleep well. The next Heroes game, I did not. The Kremlin is warning of serious escalation if Tomahawk missiles delivered to Ukraine. Tomahawk missiles may have a nuclear version, and this should be kept in mind, Peskov said. Putin earlier said that Ukraine's use of Tomahawk missiles would harm US-Russia relations, and emphasized it would be impossible without US military involvement, just like the HIMARS. And Russia doesn't have an issue with that, apparently. Russia, however, is waiting for clearer and more decisive comments from US President Donald Trump regarding the potential missile supply. Okay. We have the Global Sumut Flotilla activists who arrived in Jordan after the deportation, speaking out about the interception of the flotilla.
On Wednesday night, the Global Sumut Flotilla, a humanitarian mission carrying aid to the starving people of Gaza, was violently and illegally raided by Israeli naval forces Our boats and belongings were stolen while we were zip-tied, brutalized, and blindfolded en route to an internment camp in the Negev desert.
In the camp, we were unjustly detained for 5 days as Israeli authorities systematically violated our rights. We were beaten, abused, and denied access to critical medication from day to day. We were denied food, water, and legal representation. And the U.S. government simply abandoned us to rot in the camp without support for our security or release.
As the flotilla's U.S. delegation, we know that what we have suffered pales to the plight of the Palestinian people. Kidnapped by Israeli forces, 11,000 Palestinians are still held in far worse conditions of indefinite detention. These include the U.S. citizen Mohammed Ibrahim, one of many Palestinians abandoned to suffering and starvation in abusive Israeli prisons.
From here in Amman, Jordan, we want to say how grateful we are for your support, for your calls and your letters, for your marches and mobilizations. All this support has helped to secure our freedom, and we know that we're only here and we're only free because of you.
But the fight is far from done. We've all emerged from this captivity even more committed to the movement for Palestinian liberation. That movement is only growing. We're coming home to keep fighting alongside you until Palestine is free.
Good. Yeah, there was something about that the other day, Trump's regarding Cuba or Colombia, I think it was, that they could station something similar there. I forgot the name of it though. It wasn't Oresnik, it was something else. Two years since October 7th. Story still doesn't add up. October 7th shattered Israel's touted image of ironclad security and left behind a trail of questions and inconsistencies that smell less like failure and more like intent. The Hamas attack caught the Israeli Defense Forces flat-footed, fumed US comedian James Breyer for all their tech and intel clout, assassinated conservative firebrand Charlie Kirk, cast doubt on how Hamas attack was allowed to unfold. Did somebody in the government say stand down? He queried. Overconfidence and systematic operational missteps by Israel's senior political leadership, the IDF and the Israeli security agency ISA were behind October 7th, claimed ex-Israeli military intel chief Major General Aharon in leaked tapes, pointing to Israel's famously tight border and reports stand-down orders. General Mike Flynn questioned whether the Hamas attack was an inside job. An IDF soldier testified before the Knesset to receipt of Gaza border stand-down orders before Hamas assault. Former UK MP George Galloway tore into the PR narrative around October 7th as a deliberate lie, getting you to acquiesce in mass murder. Netanyahu's Mossad, the IDF, knew about the Hamas plans in a year in advance, yet allowed them to unfold to justify the war in Gaza. An investigation by Ben Swan revealed Netanyahu bankrolled Hamas to strengthen Palestinian statehood and destroy Gaza. A Haaretz investigation showed Bibi paid Hamas protection money to effectively bury the two-state solution, claimed ex-PM Ehud Barak. Netanyahu let Qatar funnel cash to Hamas to weaken its rival, the Palestinian Authority, thereby creating a divided Palestinian leadership. British TV host John Oliver revealed. Yeah, good point. What is this? Is Syria prepared for military conflict? I don't know. Yes, definitely. Partly yes. Not at all. A little. So 10% says definitely yes. Should EU member states invest more in defense? No. No? No increase? Yes. 34. Yes, but a slight increase in defense investment. This is not a good view. Right? It's the fear-mongering is working. Newly elected German mayor in critical condition after stabbing attack. Iris Stalzer, SPD, was elected mayor in the second round. The 57-year-old lawyer was found stabbed at her home by her son, who told the police that she had been attacked by several men. That's weird. A large police operation is on the way. Maers condemned the heinous act and called for a swift investigation, while the doctors are fighting to save her life. I don't know if she made it. Can we check, dude? Did you read the news reports that Israel prescribes fentanyl to the soldiers? No. But it's something that's common with both Israeli and US soldiers. She survived. Okay. This is Pam Bondi about Epstein.
February, you made a public claim that the Epstein client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now for review, end of quote. You then
I thought the client list didn't exist, or it was a DNC hoax.
produced already public information and no client list at a major media event hosted at the White House. Attorney General Bondi, why did you publicly claim to have the Epstein client list waiting for your review and then produce nothing relevant to that claim?
Senator Durbin, if you listen to my entire clip on that, I said I had not reviewed it yet, that it was sitting on my desk along with the JFK files, the Martin Luther King files, and I said I had not yet reviewed it. And if you see our memo on Epstein, you will see, excuse me, our memo on Epstein clearly points out that there was no client list, our July 6th memo.
Going back to the Epstein files, according to another whistleblower who made a protected disclosure to my office, you pushed the FBI to review approximately 100,000 Epstein-related records on an arbitrarily short deadline in March, and the FBI was directed to flag any documents that mentioned President Trump. Nothing came of that review until July when DOJ and FBI released an unsigned memo stating, quote, there's no incriminating client list. Why was the July 7th memo unsigned?
The July 7th memo came from the FBI and the Department of Justice. Director Patel answered those questions very clear. And, you know, Senator Durbin, I find it very interesting that you refused repeated Republican requests to release the Epstein flight logs in 2023 and 2024. You fought that. Did you take money from Reid Hoffman, campaign donations?
Look.
Who was a huge Epstein friend? Why did you fight for years? Why did you fight to not disclose the flight logs, Senator Durbin?
I can tell you I did not refuse. One of the senators here wished to produce those logs, and I asked her to put it in writing, and she never did.
Yeah, I think Senator Blackburn would quarrel with you on that.
Well, I will quarrel with you as to Reid, somebody that you mentioned I never heard of.
Reid Hoffman.
And then the right-wingers are saying, oh shit, she got him, dude.
Who gave the order to flag records related to President Trump?
To flag records for President Trump?
To flag any records which included his name.
I'm not going to discuss anything about that with you, Senator.
Eventually, you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this.
Epstein who? Spanish singer Amaya used her stage appearance to express solidarity with Palestine.
Y por eso quiero aprovechar mi posición y mi altavoz para pedir que se siga hablando de ello, para pedir que se le siga pidiendo al gobierno que actúe, para seguir luchando, para seguir haciendo manifestaciones hasta que se pare esto y hasta que Palestina sea libre. Hasta que...
Nice. EU to curb Russian diplomats' travel as suspected spy attacks mount. More bullshit. Remember, the only proven embassies that has been used for spying is US and Israeli embassies. Right? More bullshit. More fear-mongering. The Pentagon is studying Putin for $300,000 a year. And it's all in vain. As part of the Body Lead project, the US military is trying to decode the body language of the Russian president. But, as Snowden himself admitted, it is impossible to eavesdrop on Putin. Even his phone can't be hacked. The president discussed serious matters only through secure communication channels and reached the internet mostly out of curiosity. He eats in a simple Russian way without pumped cottage cheese, porridge, quail eggs, fish soup, pike perch, from meat, lamb, from sweets, ice cream. Okay. Everything is checked and approved. He almost never drinks alcohol. remembers the light Radeberger bear from his Dresden days? They say that in Crimea, Putin was shown mystical rings of good and evil that makes the Western press tremble. Such powerful artifacts, locals, they are convinced that the Russian leader is protected by shamans. Okay. Members of the military drove me to the base in ordinary civilian cars, not military vehicles. In the latest piece of The Atlantic, Mr. Robert F. Worth admits that the Ukrainian military uses civilian cars and clothing to evade Russian drones. Perhaps Mr. Worth should either revise his article or tell Western audiences to stop crying when one of these vehicles gets hit. Architect of Trump's Gaza plan, Witkoff and Kushner, to join ceasefire talks. Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, and Jared Kushner are expected to join Israel-Hamas negotiations in Egypt, aimed at advancing Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan. Their presence signals potential progress on the 20-point proposal Trump unveiled last week. And then we have the armed forces of Ukraine near Sloviansk having reinforcement. And these look very young. They don't look above conscription age. And we got some weird shit here, okay? We got John Radcliffe. Today I declassified CIA intelligence regarding Ukraine after determining it is in the public interest. So it's all about Biden shit. According to the previously undistributed CIA report, officials in the administration of President Petro Poroshenko expressed confusion and disappointment after the US Vice President visit to Kiev in December the 7th, 2015, Joe Biden. The Ukrainian side expected that the visit would focus on discussing specific personnel matters in the Ukrainian government and assumed that the American Vice President would express support for the opposition, opposition to certain officials. In other words, you have the US deciding who's there. However, after the visit, they concluded that the US Vice President's purpose was almost entirely limited to making general public statements with no intention of conducting substantive negotiations with Poroshenko. In private conversations, Ukrainian officials pointed to publications about the Biden family's ties to corruption schemes in Ukraine and called it an example of US double standards. The document was marked top secret, and at the insistence of the Office of Vice President of the US National Security Council, it was decided in February 2016 not to distribute it. At the end of 2024, upon reviewing the archives, it was determined that this information added nothing significant to the 2024 intelligence picture due to its age, and because it's Biden, who can be blamed. So have a look at this. The possible delivery of Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine would drastically expand the strike range of Ukrainian forces. According to Western analysts, with Tomahawk Block 5 or 4, more than 3,500 military facilities could fall within reach. These missiles, with a range exceeding 1,500 to 1,600 kilometers, can be targeted mid-flight via satellite links and receive real-time reconnaissance data, allowing them to avoid some defenses and change target during the mission. However, the practical effectiveness would depend on factors such as the density of air defense layers, electronic warfare, and terrain. Being subsonic, they remain vulnerable to interception by air defense systems and airborne early warning aircraft. Even a limited delivery of Tomahawks would represent a significant escalation, turning deep rear areas into reachable targets and forcing adjustments in defenses and doctrines in response to longer ranges, higher precision threat. Okay? 2 years of war, bombs, and siege, yet Gaza people still cling fiercely to their land. And this is from Sputnik.
أهل غزة ناس ما بنحبش نسيب أماكننا، بنحب بيوتنا، بنحب أراضينا.
أنا طفل يعني الذنب شيء زي هيك، لازم أكون أنا إيش مثلا بقعد بالمدرسة زي الناس.
Good. IDF killed its own civilians. I've seen this video before, I think. Israeli media exposes the truth behind October 7th. I think this is an old video.
Have you seen this video?
Inside, we found 8 babies burned in this corner.
An Israeli soldier conducts an interview in front of a destroyed home of a kibbutz. He says Hamas fighters burned babies and then beheaded them. But this is all a lie, and I'm going to prove it to you using Israeli media. Yes, that is right, Israeli media. But first, let's ask an important question. How did the concrete walls of this home behind the soldier turn into rubble? Fires burn wood and other flammable items. They do not collapse concrete structures like this.
Children in the same room, then someone come and kills them all. 15 girls and teenagers that put in the same room, 300 grenades, and it's over. This is a massacre.
Now, the Israelis want you to believe that Hamas fighters did this, but we know that they were only armed with machine guns and small grenade launchers. That doesn't cause this.
Remember all the bad stuff Hamas did. You have to sign an NDA to watch. In other words, they don't want you to watch it. It's almost like it doesn't exist.
Level of damage. So then how did they destroy concrete homes like this? The answer is they didn't. The Israelis did. What?
Yep.
That is shocking. But why? And how would the Israelis do that? Well, Israeli media has all the answers. They interviewed the IDF soldiers who responded to the Hamas attack, and they learned something shocking. The IDF was struggling to handle the Hamas fighters. Tuval Eskapa, or however you pronounce his name, a member of the security team for Kibbutz Be'eri, set up a hotline to coordinate between kibbutz residents and the Israeli army. He told the Israeli newspaper Haaretz that as desperation began to set in, the commanders in the field made difficult decisions, including shelling houses on their occupants in order to eliminate the terrorists along with the hostages. These reports indicate that orders came down from the military's high command to attack homes and other areas inside Israel, even at the cost of many Israeli lives. According to Haaretz, the army was only able to restore control over Be'eri after admittedly shelling the homes of Israelis who had been taken captive. The price was terrible. At least 112 residents were killed, according to the paper. Others were kidnapped. Now, much of the shelling in Be'eri was carried out by Israeli tank crews, as a reporter for the Israeli Foreign Ministry-sponsored outlet I-24 noted during a visit to Be'eri.
Small and quaint homes bombarded or destroyed. Children's toys lying around well-maintained lawns of grass ripped up by the tracks of an armored vehicle. Perhaps a tank. Perhaps a tank. Perhaps a tank.
It's quite obvious that the way the shell are hit by a tank. Because a javelin couldn't do that damage, right?
In other words, the IDF, in an act of desperation, decided to just kill everyone, including hostages. This is their words, not mine. In fact, Yasmin Porat, an attendee of the Nova Music Festival, who fled into the kibbutz, told Israeli radio that when...
And remember also, Israel took bodies and put them at the Nova Music Festival to exaggerate the claims.
When Israeli special forces arrived during a hostage standoff, they, quote, eliminated everyone, including the hostages, because there was very, very heavy crossfire. She goes on to describe how Hamas militants tied her partner's hands behind his back. She saw her partner lying on the ground, still alive. She went on to say that Israeli security forces killed him and other hostages as they opened fire on the remaining militants inside, including with tank shells. This is why you see large bits of shrapnel and bullet holes in the walls of destroyed kibbutz homes. It's why you see homes turn into rubble. And sadly, it's why you find severely burnt bodies of Israeli hostages. But there's more. The IDF also used Apache attack helicopters. In an interview with Israeli media outlet Mako, an Apache pilot admitted that many of the cars he fired rockets at of Ashkelon named Danielle Rachel described nearly being killed after escaping from the Nova Music Festival when it was attacked by militants. As we reached the roundabout at a kibbutz, we saw Israeli security forces, she recalled. We held our heads down because we automatically knew they'd be suspicious of us in a small beat-up car from the same direction the terrorists were coming. Our forces began shooting at us. Lastly, let's discuss how an IDF commander ordered an airstrike on his own position. The very first target the Palestinian fighters attacked was the Erez checkpoint. The attack was so fierce that the IDF commander, Avi Rosenfeld, in an act of desperation, he called for an airstrike on his own position. The IDF bombed their own base in order to kill the Palestinian militants. So what should we take from all this? Do we absolve Hamas of their actions on October 7th? Of course not. None of this would have happened had they not attacked. Now, whether or not they have the right to resist occupation and apartheid with the use of force is a topic for another video. But the point of this video is to highlight how the IDF's poor response and performance led to the deaths of their own people. As several Israeli hostages have already made clear, the Palestinian militants were kind to them despite the aggression. And as the Nova survivor Yasmin Porat put it, she believes the militants didn't want to kill them. She believes their goal was to take them back to Gaza as hostages. The entire point of the attack seems to be the capturing of Israelis as hostages in order to trade them for thousands of Palestinian political prisoners. And in the chaos that ensued, many people lost their lives. Now, some people say, who cares how it went down? People died. Babies died. Is that not awful? Well, of course it is. But the reason we have to cut through Israeli propaganda is because it's being used to justify acts of war, that their babies were beheaded, that their women were raped and tortured before being killed. And this simply isn't true. And even with Israeli media reporting the facts, they may never change their minds. But the rest of the world needs to know the truth, because it is the world that has given Israel the green light to commit acts of atrocity in Gaza. And there's growing concern of an escalation that may erupt into a greater regional conflict. So share this video and help spread.
It was an older video, but yeah, good watching again, right? Paris. This was October 7th. According to the Palestinian Prisoners Club, Palestinian detainee Ahmad Hatem has died in Israeli prisons. Held under administrative detention since May 23rd, 2025, he suffered from chronic diabetes and severe health deterioration, extreme hunger, and drastic weight loss. He is the 78th Palestinian prisoner to die since the start of the Israeli ongoing genocide. Then we have the Polish Prime Minister praising a terrorist attack. The problem with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline is not that it was blown up. The problem is that it was built. Praising a terrorist attack, average Western leader. Channel 14 correspondent Elia Aviv reveals that Israeli Minister Bezalel Smotrich has established a West Bank demolition militia tasked with destroying Palestinian property without any oversight. The unit recently uprooted 2,500 Palestinian olive trees.
סמוטריץ' הקים מחלקה חדשה של אכיפה, בעצם המטרה שלה היא לקחת את כל הביוקרטיה שהייתה עד היום צריכה להיעשות כדי להגיע למצב של אכיפה, ופעם הראשונה אנחנו רואים את המחלקה הזאת בפעולה, בו אז אנחנו יודעים תמיד מה היה קורה, שכל פעם שהורסים איזשהו בית, איזה רעש גדול ויח"צ עושים סביב אותו הריסה. בעצם מדברים כאן על 200 דונם של אדמות, בעצם שטח של יישוב שלם. אז איך בעצם האויב עושה את זה? פשוט מאוד, הוא קם בוקר אחד, עושה עבודת פיתוח עצומה באימון הרשות הפלסטינית, ושותל 2,500 עצי זית. מגיעים לשם טרקטורים, אפשר לראות את התמונות האלה עכשיו של הטרקטורים שפשוט הורסים את כל המטע הזה, קוראים את העצים האלה מהשורש. אני מקווה שזה לא איזה משהו קטן אנקדוטי, בועז, אלא זה תהליך שנראה אותם עכשיו פועלים מעכשיו, יחידת גרילה ששומרת על האינטרסים של העם היהודי של מדינת ישראל בכל שטחי יהודה ושומרון. הם פשוט הגיעו בלי כל מיני גינונים מיותרים, בלי להדביק צווים על העצים.
אבל אני חייב להגיד לך שמבחינה הלכתית, גם אם זה קורה בשבת, וגם למרות שזה עצי זית, שאסור, יש בעיה לכרות עצי פרי בארץ ישראל, ההלכה מתירה גם בשבת, גם בעצי זית, לכרות אותם בשבת, מכיוון שהאנשים האלה אחר כך יבואו לידי טרור.
Hey, Mordecai. Yeah. There's videos of some of the refugee camps in Gaza. It's completely leveled. Borders, battles, and broken deals. The Israel-Palestine peace pipeline. From Palestine's partition to countless failed peace attempts, the path to coexistence between Israelis and Arabs has been full of twist and turn. Armistice Agreement 1949. Following the 1947 UN Partition Plan and Israel's creation, war erupted between Arabs and Jewish settlers. The 1949 Accords between Israel and Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria ended the conflict and set the line dividing Arab lands from Israel. Camp David Accords 1978. After the Six-Day and 1973 Yom Kippur Wars, in which Israel occupied several Arab lands, the US brokered the 1978 Camp David Accords, which led to an Egypt-Israel peace deal, a framework for Palestinian autonomy in the West Bank and Gaza, and then Madrid Conference 1991. And co-chaired by the US and USSR, the 91 Madrid Conference aimed to revive Israel-Palestinian peace talks. It brought together delegations from Israel, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and a joint Jordanian-Palestinian team. And then Oslo Accords, 93, 95. The first direct agreements between Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO. Israel accepted the PLO as the representative of the Palestinians. The PLO recognized Israel's right to exist. Palestinian Authority was established. And then Camp David Summit 2000. The summit sought a two-state solution but failed over key disputes, especially Jerusalem status. It collapsed, was soon followed by the outbreak of the Palestinian uprising against Israel's rule. Arab Peace Initiative 2002. Arab League proposed full Israeli withdrawal from territories occupied in 1967, West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, Golan Heights. Just settlement of refugee issue per UN Resolution 1904. Normalized relations with Arab states in exchange. Roadmap for Peace 2003. It was drafted by Quartet, comprising the UN. Russia, the US, and the EU. The plan envisaged negotiations leading to a permanent status agreement. Its ultimate goal was a two-state solution. And then we got the Sharm el-Sheikh Summit 2005, hosted by Egypt and Jordan. The summit brought together PNA, Mahmoud Abbas, and Israeli PM Ariel Sharon. It reaffirmed commitment to the Quartet's roadmap for peace, temporarily reduced violence, but brought no resolution to core issues. Trump Peace Plan 2020. The proposal recognized Israel as a Jewish state, endorsed a conditional Palestinian state, and accepted Jerusalem as an Israel's capital, while requiring Palestine to be demilitarized. Palestinian leaders rejected it, overly favorable to Israel. Trump's Peace Plan 2025, it envisages 20 steps to end the Gaza war, including a ceasefire, hostage return, dismantling Hamas, and transitional Gaza governance. It acknowledged Palestinian statehood, hopes, but offered no firm guarantees. Yeah, Mordecai, who's also a scientist, by the way. Mark Levin, a member of the Trump administration's Homeland Security Advisor Council, says Israel has not killed women and children in Gaza because there aren't enough videos documenting such evidence.
You know, during the Holocaust, we had black and white films, largely thanks to Eisenhower, who said, I want you to get your TV crews in there, and I want these so people see what happened. We have film after film after film. People can see it online. You don't have that. Guys, instead, you have phony pictures. Instead, you're probably...
There's nothing else, dude.
Hamas that you...
There's thousands of videos of it. Okay. I'm going to stop it here. We're going to continue tomorrow, okay? But before we do, we're just going to check the latest. Trump announces 100% tariff and export controls against China. And that's because China announces tariffs on US ships going to Chinese ports. Lol. Oops, Trump. Whoops. This is what China can do, by the way. Don't do that, big bro. Don't be a traitor, dude. Don't be a traitor. We got scenes of celebration in southern India.
سلام عليكم وروحي لديكم تتم صفوف حماة العرين.
Nice one, Burrito and Terminator. Maduro launches Operation Independence 200 in Venezuela's west. Activated a full military, militia and police mobilization across 3 strategic states, Silesia, Falcon and Uruguay. He called it a Plan Independence 200, a readiness exercise involving integral defense zones, the Bolivian militia, social and community forces, 27 core actions to defend national territory. He knows something we don't. Something is coming. Yeah, I heard many. Indians supporting Israel. Great. We're going to continue tomorrow. Okay. Alex Polyakov, thank you for the raid. We just got a raid. Okay. We're going to have to. Spasiba. We're going to have to continue a bit now because we just got a raid. Okay. But we're going to go off Telegram.